Martha, do you want to read this? I, Hi there, everybody. My name is Linda Leland. Welcome to our Friday morning Course in Miracles group, put on through the Teachers of God Foundation. So glad you're all here. Lisa and Bill are traveling today off to see, I believe, I forget his name. Oh, sorry. They're traveling off to see a great teacher, they're getting re-inspired. And so if you're watching, hi guys. So we join here every Friday morning. It is a Course in Miracles. I know we started as a study group, but it feels more like a party where people just from all over the world can come together, live stream. We can come here and be with people on the same path, as dedicated, devoted. We're all learning and empowering one another and inspiring one another. This is the Teachers of God Foundation. When Lisa and Bill created this foundation, it was pretty much after a long time of studying A Course in Miracles and then deciding to live and do A Course in Miracles, and everything in their lives transformed. And they wanted to put together some programs to support other people through the same process of remembering their divinity and living their truth. So there's a few different programs. We have a free 40-day program, which is life-changing. We have a Living in Purpose program, which is our mastery program, usually for others who have gone through our other programs, and they know that this is the most important thing in their lives, to devote themselves to seeing the love. I love what Bonnie just said. She said, Bonnie Kimball behind the camera, who we love, she said, you know, I am God expressing itself as Linda, and Bonnie is God expressing itself as Bonnie. So to live a life expressing yourself as a unique and beautiful creation of God is incredible. So that's what our Living in Purpose Mastery program is. It's a lifetime membership. We have all sorts of support and prayer partners and curriculum. And we also have a new program called True Prosperity, where we live the principles of abundance, where we know that God has already given us everything. And if we're not experiencing that, then somehow we're blocking it with some false perception, some faulty old limiting beliefs that we're small and separate. So for 7 weeks, we step out of that and we live as if we live the truth, and you would not believe the transformations that are occurring there. We also ACIM 365, which is Lisa Natoli sort of walking you through every morning for a whole year the workbook lessons of A Course in Miracles. So I'm just so proud and happy to be part of this organization and help so many people. You know, you just watch them start to lean away from fear, start to entertain. Maybe there's a new way. Start to be introduced at the fact that there is another way of being, and just experience the love and the miracles that come from that. So thank you all so much for being here. We have a donate button and we have a love box here. We are a nonprofit organization, so any donations are greatly appreciated, even just to help us pay for this room. And this is the time where we greet each other, and the word we like to use is namaste, or I see you, where we really get in touch with the light in us and we look to a brother and we see the light in them, and that's what it means. The light in me greets the light in you. So we could either, around here, we either say namaste or I see you or I love you like crazy. So we'll take a couple minutes to do that. Welcome back, everyone. Every day we like to read from this book from the Gratitude Cafe, and so Martha is going to read it for us today. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Today is July 28th, and the reading from Ursula K. Le Guin. To oppose something is to maintain it. And the question for today, how do you create yourself as less than worthy? We can't. God has created us, and we are as God created us.
Awesome. Thanks for clearing that up, because you're right, we really can't. It feels like we can with some perceptions and limiting thoughts and separateness, but we really can't. So thank you so much, Martha. Okay, I think I covered everything. I am really excited today to present these two teachers because, I don't know, they're just, I call them two men on fire. I think you guys could go on the circuit and teach everywhere, because I love the way God expresses through you both. So I'm so happy you're here. We have John Wernsdorfer. He's going to go first. And then after he's done, we are going to hear from Arthur Gay. So you are in for a double treat. It's like a double stuffed treat. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. John Wernsdorfer.
Am I on? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Thank you, Linda. Yeah. All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello, John.
Yeah. Yeah, why don't we'll start with a prayer. Let's pray in. Thank you, God, for bringing us here together as one unit, if you will, of the whole, and allowing our consciousness to share in presence and openness to learn anything that comes up. And so it is. Amen. Yeah, so my subject is going to be, or is on communication. So I wanted to just be blank for a minute and think about it, because communication means something different to everybody. And the words that I use will inherently be wrong in some way, because they are ego-based. Words are always ego-based. So communication is, by definition, an exchange of information. And how we decide to take that information can take us in all sorts of different places. For the Course of Miracles, the way I interpret, well, first, Bonnie, can you give me a warning before, because I'm going to finish halfway?
Okay.
Yeah, just, I don't know how, I don't know where to discern where that is, so.
So you got about a half hour or so?
All right, so about 10 after.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So then I can watch that. So Course in Miracles, communication for me, the way I gather it is there's God as us, and ego, which isn't recognized by God, and Holy Spirit, who interprets the ego for me and guides me. And then there's intuition, which is truth. The beauty of the course for me is to bring all those things together and allow the intuition to be present as much as I can, which comes from the heart, or the wise heart, as I like to think of it. Some places where I think that is really pertinent is when things come up that change who we are, and we rely greatly on our intuition for the answers. One of the ways I wanted to demonstrate that was with some examples. So one example that I have, recently I woke up, apparently I was in this dream, not this dream, but the dream where I'm asleep, and which I don't know if they're the same or different yet, but I woke up in a state of panic based on my business, small business, with where I rely greatly on my truck, which has had some big challenges, and I was in this spiral of ego telling me that I was really going to die, in a matter of speaking, meaning that I was not going to get any work. The work I had was not going to come out right. My truck was not going to get fixed. And I was not going to be able to pay the bills that I owe. So it wasn't a great morning to wake up in the middle of that. And I couldn't find my way out of it. It kept getting worse. The interesting thing is, in my own practice, I've been able to observe that behavior. So while this is going on in my mind, completely in my mind, no heart involved in this, it was all brain, thought, ego, doom, and death, so to speak. I got heavy, chest would hurt, wasn't sure what to do, confused. So I decided to just sit with it and watch it with that observation. That part I can do pretty well. I have a lot of practice with that. So I just observed it, and it was interesting how it just got worse. And I went into this deep depression and wanted to just close up the house and kind of maybe crawl back in bed and hide from it. So looking back, of course, the ego is winning. The ego is doing all it's supposed to do, and it's doing a really good job of it. And then there's the part of me that is connected to intuition, standing back watching this happen, going, you can stop this, you know. You know how to stop this. And so, and I wasn't sure how to stop it. So I just kept watching it. And this went on for a couple hours. It felt like eternity, but it was really just a few hours. And it was, you know, it was all about lack and self-worth and worthiness and abandonment. I mean, it just goes deeper and deeper. And so I thought, well, I need somebody I can trust to help guide me out of it. So I called a friend, and I explained it to him real quick, and then realized that he's not a morning person at all, because now it's, you know, already 6 a.m. And he listened for a minute, and then I realized he didn't hear anything. And he told me to just chill out and call me later. So I said, okay. And after I was done, I got really pissed at him, going, no, wait a minute. You're supposed to be there for me. So it was still all about me at that point. And then I got really, really pissed at him, thinking, this isn't right. You're supposed to help me through this. But surprisingly, the anger actually inspired me, which surprised me at the time, but I understand now that the anger is a good jolt to get out of that mode of depression. I guess it's just underneath it in some way. So that inspired me to get out of it, and so I still couldn't think of a way to get out of it for a little while. So I decided to clean, because that's a great thing to do. So clean the house, that's a good idea. And then it came to me that I needed to do something that felt good for the heart. So I got online and purchased some leads and contacted people and set up jobs. And that was like the first step. And then the intuition came in, and the communication with Holy Spirit was right there. Once I got just enough past the fear to go, oh, I know how to get out of this. It's just a change of perception. And so I changed the perception. It took a little while. I had to walk myself through it. But the perception that I had no way out and no place to go and no one to help me was pretty obviously bullshit at that point. So, and I've climbed out of these holes before, so I knew there was a way. It just took a little bit. And some realization that I knew how to do that, and that I had the skills to do it, and to invoke them, and just work my way through it. And there, basically in that, lies the communication. Exchange of information from intuition to myself, to create what I needed to move forward. And then from there, I would say probably an hour or two later, I realized I didn't check the mail. And in the mail there was some money. So then I lined up a rental truck. And so basically everything fell back in place, as it were. And it was all there anyway. And it was really just a lesson of communication, but it was also a lesson that it's a pretty normal cycle. It'll happen again. I know it'll happen again. I'll go there again, and it's no big deal. It's kind of like being wise to know that there's still tomorrow, as the song says, and so that's one example. Another example I like for communication is recently I had an interesting. So I left one relationship and I'm in another one, and there was this connection between the two that wasn't sitting right, and it was interesting to just feel that and sit with that and be totally in communication with it. So it didn't undermine anything. There was a little bit of guilt that came up in it, but basically I sat with the intuition and knew that I need to go with the intuition and follow that and know what is there. And the first intuition was to work on it on my own and not share it with anybody. And then in that, I decided to go see the person that from the other relationship. And it became really clear that I was really uncomfortable inside with something that was undone. And so I took that away and didn't react on it. I didn't do anything with that. But again, I sat with that intuition and meditated on it for a while and realized that I had made these agreements with myself years ago to follow, it's an integrity issue, but to stick with promises that were made in spite of where I was at. So I was hanging on to these old promises and trying to move forward. And so once I realized what those promises were, and they were integrity issues with myself and compromise my own letting go of old connections. So I went back to that person and did what I needed to do to let go of that, which was just a conversation and a new agreement, if you will. It was interesting to watch then the guilt come up. And the guilt was in the new relationship of not sharing all that, which I had intended to do, but I needed to get through it first. And the guilt is a great communicator because that's ego entirely. And again, I know from my own experience that it's bullshit. That guilt is just another flag for an agreement or expectation that we put on ourselves. So that was that was great the way it played out, and it was nice to see myself observe and act on it in a way that just kind of handled it all and relinquished it all. The after, though, there's always stuff that comes up after that always comes out, and it's like there's a part of that communication that needs to be just held on to a little bit, both to move forward and learn, but also to see what else is left. And what was interesting was I looked back at that original agreement, and the original agreement was a manipulation. It was a manipulation from fear of loss, fear of dealing with abandonment, but in any case it was fear, so it was par for the course that it should come up later. It's part of the work. And so that was pretty revealing to see how that played out and communicated back to me. So that's another example. Another example that's kind of on a whole different scale, which is very personal, but it was kind of pertinent, is has to do with abandonment again. There was a point way back, it seems way back now, 98, where I had found out that my wife at the time was seeing somebody else. And that invoked this deep abandonment and showed up as rage. And I took it out on that other person's car. Thank God. Not that I would ever take it out on anybody, but I took it out on his car, which was pretty satisfying. And it was interesting, though, to see where that showed up after that. Because at the time, I guess there was a big lesson there, and I hadn't really got it. I didn't take it in. I still put it all on her. Really blamed her for the whole thing, even though, I mean, it was way out of proportion in the result. You know, it involved a lot of police and a pickaxe. So, yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it was a little out of proportion, and so. So it showed up again later, and it was interesting. It showed up in a more facilitated environment through Shalom, and made a direct connection with the rage and the abandonment. And then it showed up again with my last relationship on a much more manageable scale, thank God. But it was the abandonment, and it's interesting to be able to use the coursework and understand where these things come up to be healed and how to manage them, and know that even though they're healed, they still get triggered. You can still feel them. But they're so much easier to manage when you understand what they are, where they're from, how they feel, and what gifts come out of them, which I think is the real fun in all of it. Heartbreak is a gift, I think, if we can allow it to be, where it puts us in a place where we're raw and open to receive lots of great information. It's like opening the door to good communication. As long as we don't bring in all the fear and anger to cover it all up. And so I've done that recently, and it was pretty. It was actually pretty fun to watch it and not let all the fear and stuff redirect. I think that's it. So we got about 10 minutes. So I think we'll let people add to that. Anybody wants to?
Any comments?
I love. Can I do? Oh.
Yeah.
Where's the microphone? Oh. I love also how you really talked about intuition. It's amazing how more clear that gets, and it's like there's. I don't know. I was trying to think about it when you were talking about, even for me, how it's not even a gray line anymore. I mean, the more you do listen to that, because it is communication, it is the truth. Like I can't. Every text I type, everything I do, I can tell. I have this strong intuition that shuts it down, or lets me know with 100% certainty that it's like, I can't think of the last time that I was like, what do I do? What do I do? So, and it's just gotten so much stronger. And I liked how you said that was a form of communication.
Absolutely.
And it does get it's just got such clarity within it. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing today.
Sure.
Wow,
Yeah.
you've added a lot. My question is that I also have that intuitive, I assume all of us do, but getting to that part of me when I am in rage or depression or sadness, it's a pretty strong hold on me. And I just wondered, you spoke several times about when you were in these feelings that you were able to hear that intuition. How, I mean, what was your method of getting to that intuitive side?
I remember changing. I remember the moment that I figured out how to do that, and then it was just practice, and it's really just learning to be the observer.
Good for you.
That part that isn't in rage, that watches the part that sees you in rage.
I love that you said that
catching that.
And catching it.
Yeah.
I love that you also said that these were gifts in the long run.
Always, yeah.
That is truly a gift. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
John, it was fun to hear you. It was
Thank
good to
you.
hear you.
Yeah.
I also heard you say that one of the things that you did in changing from out of that dark, dark space or that rage space was the first thing you did was start to clean.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think that's important because you have to do something to just get yourself out of thinking about that. You have to make it be about something else.
Yes.
Because it becomes so delicious to hang in there and either feel really, really sorry for yourself or to feel really, really self-righteous in your rage. I mean, that stuff's addicting. I know. I've spent years with that.
Yeah.
And that it becomes a very seductive place to hang out.
It is. Yeah.
But you change the energy by just going and doing something else and getting involved in something else. And that, for me, lots of times, if I go outside, I have a harder time being crazy outside than I do like inside my house, like go to the ocean or something.
Yeah.
I start to right-size things.
Yeah.
You know, I start to see something much larger than myself.
Right.
And I can, because it doesn't take a lot to change the energy. It just
doesn't.
takes the willingness to change the energy. Lisa was talking about that last week when she talked about she and Bill having some bumps in their marriage. Can you imagine people having bumps in their marriage?
No, not at all.
But what they, well, you know, once we had one, huh, Dave?
Today.
But what they did was they brought willingness to see it differently. And you're getting up to go clean something was a willingness just to get out of whatever that spiral dance was that you were in.
Yes.
And then you start to realize, okay, wait a minute, let's just right size this. Because I'm not as big as my ego thinks I am.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Good to hear you.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Someone else?
I like the idea of cleaning to get out of something too. When I was doing Your Money or Your Life, they actually had an article and a theme of decluttering as a spiritual practice. I mean, there's
Awesome.
something about emptying the physical space that literally gives your spirit a different place to be in.
Yes.
But the other thing I wanted to mention, and I came in the middle, so I don't quite know what the setting was, but I came in about the time you were saying that you realized that your old agreement was to continue to keep your word on something even if it was from long ago and no longer fit.
Right.
And I've recently had a big example of that, where that, what I call rule of the world, you know, it's like if I said I'd do it, I'm going to do it.
Right.
My father's kind of principled to the point of going down with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of you know I'd had a prison pen pal for about 5 years, and the last year or so she sort of slid from being in a halfway house to being trying 2 or 3 other options for a place to live in California after she got out of prison, and ultimately ended up on the street, homeless. You know, and she would text me every day, and I would respond every day, but it got weirder and weirder, less and less connected to A Course in Miracles, which was our original supposed connection when we wrote for a couple years first while she was still in prison. And by the end, when I decided that I was really no longer going to send her any money for anything. And it took me like a year or more to essentially settle into that commitment as a commitment, as opposed to, I know this is a good idea, and then I'd slippery around. And so ultimately it got to the place where she resented when I was saying no, I wasn't going to, I wasn't going to send that. And it didn't feel good at all. And when I was in a session with some help, it came out that my rule was, once I make an agreement, I'm not allowed to be the one who stops it. And so it's a gift to, it had been a gift to me, but an ego kind of gift when somebody else said, okay, I'm out of here. And I would think, phew, somewhere along the line, but I didn't have to do it, I didn't have to do it. So once I did that for her and for me, I was actually right before I said, I need to stop this communication. I was talking to my son, who is much more streetwise than I am, and had told me way back when, Mom, don't send her any money. I know people like this. I know what happens. I know what you don't need to do this. Well, and I knew he was, quote, right, but I'm Nancy and he's Greg.
Yeah.
So I was still doing it. And then in a phone conversation, maybe a week or 10 days, before I ultimately got the guts and the words and the how-to shut it down, I was telling my son, well, when I finally stopped sending her money, and he says, when was that? And I said, April 12th or something like that. And he said, this year or last year? Because he'd been giving me this advice for a while. And I said, this year. And he just completely broke out in laughter. It was such a gift to me. It's like he didn't judge. He didn't say a word. He just laughed for like a solid 2 minutes, and he finally said, I haven't had such a good laugh for a long time. And somehow that gave me the cloud, the uplift to go make the call. And it was just a very short text, like good morning, which is what I usually would say. I need to stop this communication. It's no longer loving from me to me. Our love and connection will last forever, and so it is. Amen. And then I blocked her.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's Arthur's turn. Come up. All right. Awesome. Thanks, Arthur. Yeah.
Arthur needs that microphone.
This one? The other one, right?
Oh, whatever one.
Whatever one you get.
You got a choice.
I'm off.
And
You gonna use that, or you
yeah,
want
use
this?
it.
Use this?
Yeah.
All right.
Arthur, the stand is over there if you want it.
Okay. My name's Arthur Gay, and
Hook you up?
yeah, go ahead.
Here. Hook it around your pocket. There.
Bill would roll over right now, see that cord.
Yeah.
Flip it under your mouth. There.
Is that good?
I think so.
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
My name's Arthur Gay.
About the cord, it's fine.
Is your name still Arthur Gay?
It is Arthur Gay. Can you believe it? And last week, Linda offered the opportunity to do some presenting up here, and I took advantage of it. And it's my second opportunity. And thank you, Linda. I love you.
Thank you, Arthur. I love you too.
It's last Thursday, the night before she offered that, I was with a group of men, and the topic was, how do we deal with loss? And when she offered that, I thought it would be a good subject to talk about. So, of course, they got my sermon that night, and it started with, I have to know what I can lose before I can lose something. So anything I need, I can lose. And anything I'm attached to, I can lose. And of course, I'm going to lose them because all my needs and all my attachments are temporary objects, people, places, and things. So over time, I'm going to lose everything. So I do all my study now out of the new version, but this is in the preference of volume 2, and it's not in the new book, and I wanted to read it. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. This is how A Course in Miracles begins. It makes a fundamental distinction between the real and the unreal, between knowledge and perception. Knowledge is the truth, under one law, the law of love of God. Truth is unalterable, eternal, and it can be recognized, but it cannot be changed. It applies to everything that God created, and only what He created is real. It is beyond learning because it is beyond time and process. It has no opposite, no beginning, and no end. It merely is. The world of perception, on the other hand, is the world of time, of change, of beginnings and endings. It is based on interpretation, not on facts. It is the world of birth and death, founded on the belief in scarcity, loss, separation, and death. Now this next line is my favorite. It is a learned rather than given, selective in its perceptual emphasis, unstable in its functioning, and inaccurate in its interpretations.
I get an amen on a Friday. Amen!
So my loss is learned. It's taught to me. I made some notes. Can you read them? I can't. So I'm not the most experienced presenter you're going to get, but I brought a prop today, and I only bring beautiful props. Can I use you?
Oh, sure.
You're the perfect presenter.
You all know Linda Leland. Okay, she's my make-believe wife. Is that okay?
That's great.
We met in our early 20s. 40 years ago for me, 20 years ago for her. Don't try and do the math. So Arthur dates this beautiful woman, and in his mind he says, oh my God, you'll have sex with me on a regular basis? And you'll take care of the box we buy? And you'll take care of the children we have? Oh my God, I need you. I love you. And then Linda says, you'll develop a career, make money so we can have the things we want? I need that. I love you. Let's get married. And voila, we have a special relationship. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. I love being married to you, by the way.
I have one wife. That's enough. Trust me. So, I do the same thing with my children, right? I develop special relationships with my kids. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. You got to get a college education. You got to be better than, greater than. And I am just attached and needed all over the place. All my pain and suffering comes from my attachments and my need. It's the same thing. So Jesus talks about taking our special relationships to the Holy Spirit. And I think I was doing one of the programs that Lisa and Bill do. And I made a whole list of all my special relationships. Started with Lisa, my kids, all my outside relationships. And it even included at the time Teachers of God Foundation. And I sat with it in quiet, each one separate. Some took a while. And I got different guidance on all of them. But all the guidance was to be released from the attachment, the need, and just to love. But it was hard for me to do. And then I got presented with this lesson, and I'd like to share it with you, because now I use it throughout the course continually. And this teacher who presented it is, he's extremely calm. I kind of melt when I listen to him. So here's the lesson. If I had every being in the world sitting in this room today, and I asked them one question, and I said, Who are you? Every one of them starts with, I am. Black, white, male, female. And that's our connection. That's our oneness. That's God. Then I start with the I am this, I am that. And I start separating from God. But the lesson was to teach that I am the Son of God, is unchanging. It always was and always will be. So the this and that I add to it is just an experience I'm having. The I am is experiencing. So for example, if I say I am sad, it's just the sadness that I'm experiencing. As the sadness passes, the I am is unchangeable. So all this stuff I project outwards, these experiences, are unaffecting to the I am. So the experience of what I call in the physical body death, the I am is just experiencing it. The I am is unchanged. The body gets laid down. But I am is in God. Everything going on here is in God. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing changing. So it's just my physicalness that thinks something outside of it has changed. And I've used this lesson to release myself from my attachments. So I started doing it a while back in my marriage. I just released my needs that I had from my wife. And it's got to the point where they're released. It allows me to just love her. To love her essence. To be with her, not be with her, it doesn't matter. We've never had a conversation about this. And over the last year, I've watched her side of the relationship get released. And it's amazing. The need is gone on both sides. Without us ever sitting down and talking about it. Don't ask me how it happens. But when we get still and peaceful, everything around us seems to get still and peaceful. I don't know why. I learned to turn all my choices over to my inner guide. My inner guide's Jesus. I was in a meeting last night and someone talked about how they don't understand God, they don't have a higher power. So I got to talk to her and I just said, try this on. Every time you have to make a choice, don't make any decision about it and just hand it over to whomever, not you. And just keep doing this and see what happens. Today I just practiced stillness. And I'm going to give you a little side note. I've been getting guided to teach. So we got a study group starting next week that I get to facilitate. And I'm always learning and teaching. I'm around in recovery groups all the time, and I always bring the course to the recovery groups. I lost my train of thought.
You're starting the group.
Huh?
Starting the group on Monday.
Yeah, oh, okay. So, but I've been, for a month or two, I've been fighting the guidance. I don't think I've been studying the course long enough. I lack all this. So yesterday, I know I'm going to be speaking today, and of course the ego's running around in my head, and he says, geez, I hope this one person doesn't show up for the group. This learned, studied, he's taught here, and I'm just saying, I'm just not qualified to speak in front of him. And I've gone to Jesus multiple times and said, let's get this over with, get these fears up, So who comes in the room before the meeting but David? Now, David, he has no idea I'm even talking about him. This is my fear. And Jesus just said, there it is, deal with it. So what I do, I hand it over, put it on the altar, and let it go. There has to be a practical practice to all this, so we can bring it into everyday experience. And that lesson I learned, the I am, I bring into everyday experience. Every time I get a little crazy, I take this whole thought system, which always seems to be around here that I have. And it's limited because that's all thought can be. So I always picture this just as round like the vacuum cleaner you put on the floor and it cleans the house by itself. I love tools like that. If I don't have to do anything, I'll buy it. And then I just rest off it. I turn around and I rest off it. I fall off that thought system. And I just rest into God. And it works every time. You know, early in the course it teaches us, when that thought comes up, to forgive it and hand it over. I also just ask, who's this thought for and what's its purpose? It's always for me and always to make me not right. That's all. And this is how I bring it into practical practice every day. It's amazing the things that happen. I had a first sponsor in AA pass away last week. And he's been described as maybe the angriest person on earth. And I loved him. But we couldn't stay together. I went real spiritual. Well, not spiritual, but I was developing a love for God. And so we parted. But when I got the phone call that he passed, about a minute into the phone call, he went through me, literally. And this is a truth. He went through me and came out under me, and that was it. And I just never had stuff like this before. Wednesday night, I'm home early, and I'm tired, and I'm not myself. I usually do a lot of work at night. And I just said, I'll go to bed early. And something got on the internet about a band I like. And it's a kids' band. And I just got so energized. Jesus just put it there. Okay, let's wake you up. And I got on the phone and I called the ticket booth and I said, I'm 61 and I'm coming. What can you do for me? Because it's all standing room tickets. It's all kids, 20-year-olds. And I emailed the director of the ticket part. And the next day I get a response. And I bought tickets and we're going. And I'm bringing my 20-somethings to protect me. It's, you know, you just say, oh, that's nothing. But when these little things just keep happening and happening and happening, it's eventually you just have to say it's not a coincidence.
Let's talk about the email you got.
The email, oh, well, the email that I got back was, the woman said, if you come a couple hours before the show, we'll seat you. We have a couple of seats, and you can have the table. Nice. All right? So I'm going to the show. We got tickets, we got a room, we're going to be at Hampton Beach Sunday, next month.
What's the band?
Yeah.
Lettuce. Everybody's going to go, who's that?
Also, I loved what you said after you got the tickets, like, and you were just tired and ready to go to bed. What you
Oh, so.
Viewers can't hear you.
Oh, it's okay. He's going to tell you.
I know. But
So when this all started happening, I got so energized. I put on my Spotify, put in the earplugs, and grabbed the dog and went out, and I was dancing on the sidewalk for 2 hours, up and down. It's just amazing. This morning, every morning, I wake up and I go right to Jesus and I say, do you want me to do anything this morning? Because I'm sleeping in if you don't. But this morning I was like revved because I was coming here. And I come here every Friday. But it was the first time I felt like that in bed, like, okay, I'm up, let's go. And there's no coincidences here. But the I am is is my favorite teacher, and I take it into the course with everything now. And because of it, the course itself is very understandable. I'm going to switch tracks just for a second and kind of bring in the teaching thing in time. First time I opened the course book, it was November of 2015. So I haven't been studying the course a long time. I was doing a lot of other spiritual study, and that was the last 4 months that my mother was alive. She was 95 when she passed, and she had tried the course in the 90s. She got me into Conversations with God. She was a huge Neil Donald Walsh fan, all his studies and books, and I've been through all that. And just a quick side, one of my big attachments and needs on the outside was alcohol. The last 30 years I drank, I was probably sober 25 years of it, but in those 5 different span, I was in and out of detoxes and locked psych wards 30 times. When I drank, it was 24/7 sick, physically sick. So anyway, the last time I was in a locked psych ward, and I just said, I have no purpose. I've never had a purpose. Now I had a career, 6 figures, house, kids, all meaningless. I had all the toys, lost all the toys, had all the toys. And I made a pact with myself, either I find a purpose, I'm not gonna be here anymore. So I got back into studying it, and I got back into Neil Donald Walsh and all the other guys, Eckhart Tolle and all them. But they were all leading me to the course. The course got dropped in my lap in September, and I just said, I looked at it, I said, I don't know. So I got the author there, Gary Reinhardt. He's wrote The Disappearance of the Universe. He wrote a trilogy. But I happened to get the 3rd book first. I didn't know, I didn't know about it. So I read the 3rd book, and I realized I was in the 3rd book of a trilogy, but it was the last step before I opened the course. So I haven't been doing it a long time, and I've been fighting with the lack, feeling lack, because I'm getting prompted to teach. So I want to tell you that this doesn't have to take a long time. Wholly instant. The will to change my mind. The will to change your mind. The will to live from love. And it just does this, if you allow it. So I was 4 months into studying the course, and I signed up for my first study group. It was in Sandwich. And I went to the group on a Monday night and met every 2 weeks. And I was reading off a Kindle. I was studying the course off Kindle, and you just couldn't do it in the study group. They bounced around, so I needed a hard copy of the book. Well, that same night, my mother passed. And that following week, we were my sister and I were cleaning out her apartment, and I said, I know Mom's got a course book, because she studied it in the 90s. So I'm going through all her spiritual books, and I find it. And this is it. And so I flipped through it real quick and said, good, I got a book. And we went along, emptying out the apartment. And then I went back and sat down. And I opened the first page. And there's this note in it.
Hold it out.
And the note, it's my mother, and it reads, and when I have gone beyond the state of consciousness, this book will belong to my son Arthur. Please study it, Artie, and find the real life. Fill your heart with love and find true happiness. Serve other people, and the universe will serve you. I love you, Mom. I found this in February 2016. It's dated 1994. I found my purpose. Doesn't take a long time. When I started the course, I was doing it. And then it became in this study group, I got introduced to these teachers. From these teachers, I've gotten to my outside teachers. I can mark on a calendar where time has collapsed for me. This is all I do. There's nothing else. There's nothing outside of me. I had to learn to love myself and then extend it. That's what I do today. I extend love. It's about stillness and quiet. I love being alone because I'm never alone. When I'm around people too long, I start looking for God time by myself. Used to be the opposite. When I was alone, I was everything outside of myself to make me feel good. Today there's nothing outside of me. You're all in my dream, so I get to do what I want. Nothing more comforting. I had a friend lose his girlfriend in a recovery meeting. And the first meeting he went to, he sat next to me and he said, "Can I just sit next to you?" And this guy never sits next to me. He said, "I just want to feel your peace." I don't recognize that. That's Jesus saying, you're doing the right thing. You're in the right place. I get presented more lessons. I've been struggling with the teaching thing. 2 weeks ago, Leslie, right out of the teacher's manual. Last week, Lisa. Bill sat down with me one day and talked about running a group. These are all messages to wake up. Let's go. I signed up for this and now I'm running away from it. Well, once I recognized I was running away, I stopped. I never stay on track all the time. I don't know if people do. I can only speak for myself. But when I get off track, it doesn't last. There's no such thing as a bad day anymore. A couple moments, a couple thoughts, they're all fleeting. They're all fleeting. They don't come from love. Who gives a shit? Let them go. Just let them go. But the most amazing thing is to watch what's going on around me in my immediate family. My oldest son, my guidance was to leave him alone. Just love him. Stop trying to control him. Stop trying to direct him. The only thing I control is what I do with my thought and the choice I make. That's it. I don't control anything else. When I practice that, I'm releasing myself from my attachment and my need. Doesn't matter what happens out here. I don't lose anything. Well, I do lose something. I lose my anger, my rage, my need for a bottle of vodka. I lose all that crap. I always recommend the 40-day program when I'm around recovery to people. For one, it takes me off the hook because I don't have to do anything. Either they're willing or they're not, and it doesn't matter to me. I have no attachment. But I love when someone will come up to me and say, "I started the 40-day program and I love it. Thank you for recommending it. You're an angel or a doll or whatever." And I just said, it's just Holy Spirit talking to Holy Spirit, Jesus talking to Jesus. And it's amazing how the miracle ripples out. It affects me. I affect a certain amount of people. They affect a certain amount of people. We're starting our study group Monday. We got this tiny little room, maybe 10 people. We already got that many committed to it. And I'm so afraid to go and teach because I lack. I think I lack.
You don't lack.
No, none of us do. I used to be the son of God, making believe I'm not. Today I don't make believe I'm not anymore. So now a mistake is just an error, and it's correctable, and it's correctable on the spot. You know, it doesn't have to turn into emotion and an action if I don't allow it. I can do the work at the thought. And as I do this work more and more, that thought system starts to dissipate. I start to think like the Son of God. And I always do this when I'm struggling. I always picture this big clear ball around me with no boundaries, and it's God. And I'm just kind of inside it going, nah, this day sucks, whatever, you know? What can be going wrong when I'm inside of God? I'm inside of love. It's awesome. So when you get presented with teachers, take them, use them, because they're going to present you to other teachers. You know, I always think of climbing a ladder, but it's not. But it could be. We just, I don't know if it's energy or it's probably knowledge. We acquire the knowledge of what we are. We undo what we're not. And in 21 or 22 months, you get to stand up here and use Linda for a prop. I didn't know her 22 months ago. Now she's my prop.
I'll be proud.
Pretty cool, huh?
Very.
I love you all. Thank you for letting me come up here. Sure.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Arthur?
Figures.
It's interesting how our egos work, because when you started to tell your story and you started to talk about your practices and things like that, the little ego voice of me says, Dave, you're really good at concepts and pulling in historical stuff and all that together, but you know, this man is really teaching from his heart, from his experiences. So I know why I came here today, Arthur, because there was a question, because I had another appointment and I wasn't sure we were going to make it. So I'm glad I kind of ruined your day for you. But it really is. The thing I love about this group, and I've loved about ACIM and this group, and all groups where truth is being told, whether it's AA, OA, any kind of church here, where people are expressing and telling their truth. It's the kind of love that seeps through all of that goes beyond the separate selves, you know, the kind of special that you referred to. And you're a wonderful teacher. And not because you have some kind of goodie bag filled with all kinds of education skills or this or that. That doesn't matter. You're a teacher because that's who you are. That's what I got from today. Thank you.
Are there, having come from the same 30 years that you've come from, you know, a 12-step program, what you do here as a teacher or anywhere in our lives, it's practice these principles in all our affairs. You know, they teach us in the 12-step program. What you know is to hold a space for the people who are coming to your group on Monday night. You can know for them that Jesus is in the room until they know it for themselves. It's the same thing we do in the 12-step programs, right? We hold a space for people because we know that healing is possible until people know it for themselves. You already got it all. You got it all for them. And they will become the teachers too in the circle. And just like the program, you have a book here to hang on to. I mean, that's what we go to. You hold the space and you bring the book. You already got it. And you do it really, really well. You've been doing it for 30 years.
Yeah.
I just thank you so much. That was great. And it made me think about when Jimmy Twyman was teaching here, I think, and he held up, or maybe it was Michael Meredith, whatever, a Course in Miracles and said, do you guys know what this is? In front of this whole 300 people in the congregation. And people said, it's a book, it's this, it's that. He said, no, this is an alarm clock. And you set it. You set this to come into to awaken you. And your letter from your mother is such... I don't know, I can't even talk about it right now. It was just such a perfect example of that. Believe it or not, I have a course book dated 1995 with a letter just like that from my mother. All of, there is nothing outside of us. So these teachers show up, you show up, John shows up, Lisa shows up, whoever. And, we're ready for that message. We sent it. I was ready to learn more about communication today and about intuition. And I guess I was ready. When you called me up there and you showed the silliness, the craziness of these agreements that we make, I'm going to come in and I'm going to, like you said, I'm going to be the provider and you're going to feel safe and I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And then just to hear you mention and to show us all that what life looks like if you wipe all that away and just love them, even if it's your own kids. You take your agenda, you take your shoulds, you take your expectations of them, and you just love them instead. Like, I don't think there's one person in here that hasn't felt the huge sense of freedom and joy at the prospect of that. So, I sent that. That was for me today. And, I just want to say that, the teachers that you talk about and, you feeling like I've only been in this for 19 months, you totally collapsed time. And you are so worthy of teaching. And I just want you to have the confidence, because your clarity in your heart and your love is I think you're one of my favorite teachers. Amen. I really do.
Can I sit?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on stage.
No, you got to just take it all in, Arthur.
Now I can be part of the group again.
Thank you so much. You are a wonderful teacher, and I'm sorry that I live up here and you live down there, because I'd love to come to your group. But it's so funny how all minds are joined. And so I was driving down from Maine this morning, because I stayed in Maine last night, and the song came on. I forgot I even had it on my iPod, but a song came on, and it was called "Bad Day." You had a bad day. I'm not going to sing it. You're better off that I don't.
Come on, Kelly.
And I had the thought, I can't remember the last time that I identified I'm having a bad day, and I was like, what's a bad day? There's no such thing. That's just an egoic thought. And so, of course, I came here and you talked about it, because we're one. Yeah. So thank you. You're a natural teacher, and your group is going to rock. And I'm glad that you had the ego get in the back seat today, so that you could be driven here by Spirit to teach us.
Just tell you, I noticed the shoes when you came in. Pretty cool.
Thanks.
Don't forget, I'm your wife.
I hope my Lisa's not watching.
Oh, seriously. Just kidding.
All right, I just wanted to thank you for raising the consciousness throughout. Definitely. You're the
You
man.
started it.
You're the man,
You
Johnny.
started it.
Anybody else before we get it? Yeah.
We got
Pray
to
out?
go. Time's up.
I just want to say a few things from viewers.
Okay, Bonnie wants to say a few things from the viewers.
For both of you. Everybody really loved you too. This is Bonnie's voice. Somebody get in the camera. Arthur took off. But I just wanted to say, I have most of them. Sorry, John. I have most of them from Arthur. But, Joan DeGroot, Arthur, you're a healer, teacher. Pamela, we love you, Arthur, Maria and Pam. People dissolved in tears. Peg Jones, thank you, Arthur. We had someone come in from Italy, and Kimberly Cartwright. This is why I tune in every week. I get fed. My soul gets fed. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you both, Arthur and John. I knew today was going to be on fire, and you did not. You met that full on. So it was unforgettable. And if we want to join in a closing prayer, Arthur, do you guys can do a circle this week? Yes, do a circle. Again, there's a donate button for anyone tuning in. We are the Teachers of God Foundation, as you can see. We're all teachers, and we're all sent to each other to help us wake up, to help us remember our divinity. And today we were sent John and Arthur, and if you are called to teach, we would love to have you up here. Like I always say, if your heart's pounding, good. Mm-hmm. Because, and if you know it's you, just sign up and do it anyway, and just watch. We love just to witness your gifts, and either way, you're a gift. So, yes, we have a love box over there and the donate button, so we're going to just bless our tithes and offerings with our unity prayer. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Dear God, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your clarity, your love, your message, our message, my message, comes through beautifully when we listen, when you are our intention, when I am is my intention. When we seek you everywhere, we see you everywhere. We are you everywhere. Thank you for the Holy Spirit and for the communication you offer us always, at every minute, for always being there. Thank you for intuition. And let us go forward, letting everybody off the hook, extending love with all our hearts as you, with you. And let that be our only intention. Just like Arthur, let this be all we do and why we're here. This is our only true purpose. And we are so grateful to have this group sent to us on the same journey as us. Amen. Bye. Love